Howdy folks. This is Father Dougal 9000 here, and welcome to another episode of Game Finish Trios, a series where I talk about the games I've played and beaten, as part of the Game Finish Challenge from the Hardcore Gaming 101 forum. Some of today's games featured characters exploring strange worlds, so I thought I'd do a vaguely topical joke before we get started. Ahem. What do you call a game on Nintendo's motion control console, where you end up in another world? A Wii. Sekai. Today's games were originally logged from the 28th of June to the 7th of July 2022.
Automaton Lung for the Nintendo 3DS. So, this is an interesting one. It's an independently produced game that came out for the Nintendo 3DS eShop the week I played and wrote about it. So in the summer of 2022, developed by Luke was the fish Vincent, who previously made the Harold's Walk, Harold Reborn games for the system. It was one of the last games to be released on the eShop prior to it shutting up the next year, and I was curious enough to check it out. It's actually hard to describe the game because you don't get any information to go on, or it's hard for me to describe it for that reason. You're dropped into this world, controlling an android lady who can fire lasers, use a jetpack for aerial boosts, and pop out a hoverboard that gradually gets faster, and that's it. You're let loose to run around. There are computer chips dotted about the place, which restore your health completely and very slightly extend your health meter. There's a random temple in the distance with a gate that demands you collect 120 of these computer chips, but doesn't say any more. So that's pretty much what you spend the game doing. It's a 5th generation style action platformer that stylistically tries to create a sense of uncanniness with its minimalist visuals and lack of communication. There isn't a controls list to explain what you can do, no dialogue, or anything to provide context for what you're doing. There's not even a pause menu. That can make it hard to parse what you're meant to be doing beyond just grabbing the computer chips, but the gameplay itself is fine, if a bit inelegant. You have a lock-on system that makes combat functional, though it's a bit spammy, and levels are straightforward enough to explore and finding the computer chips. There's something fun to just digging around and seeing what you can find without any prompts, though that did become a bit of a problem when the game offers another gate that'll be opened with 210 chips. Since there's no map or even a basic guide for whether you've gotten all the chips in any area beyond that temple. I knew I didn't want to keep looking to be so vigorous to get that final gate, so I stuck with getting what I could and took on a pair of boss battles that concluded the game. At the time, it was so new and information and in-depth gameplay footage was so scarce, it's possible that the ending obtained for getting all the computer chips is much more substantial than the one I ended up with. But for now, since I didn't have the faintest idea, I was happy to leave things at that. And while I've never wanted to go back to it since, it's a decent enough game. And it's very cool to see such a strange action platformer as one of the 3DS's last officially released games. But it ain't for me. Burnout Paradise for the Xbox 360. I ended up ordering a couple of Xbox 360 games off the website for the second-hand game shop CEX, since I still wanted to play something on the 360, but couldn't download anything through Xbox Live, currently inaccessible due to shite internet. And the rest of the games that I do own for the 360 in the house are blocked off by a big stack of boxes. No, seriously, they're literally right in front of them. On the website, I grabbed the so-called Ultimate Box Edition of this, I'll get to that in a bit, as well as Child of Eden, both of which were quite cheap and games I've been wanting to play for years. Burnout Paradise is a shockingly good open-world game, featuring tons of secrets and explorable areas that weave seamlessly into the gameplay, Whether you're just driving around or doing missions, you can utilize those areas, crashable billboards, and whatnot to help you out. Lack of any set layouts to racetracks makes the events more spontaneous, as you can take on any route or shortcut you please. It's such a versatile driving game, and there's so much to do that even playing the same kind of events will always offer something new to try out. I haven't even tried out the bikes, which is pretty much a bonus campaign given how many unique challenges that has. I really enjoyed playing this the whole way through. It's such a ludicrously addictive game with depth for days. So many vehicles, so many events, so many different ways of approaching the same space. In terms of pure racing, I think I prefer the closed circuits of something like Burnout 3. Something about madly dashing to the end is compellingly intense, but I prefer having more time to get used to specific areas, get to know those places. I also think that the thrill of having stuff like Burnout 3's closed circuits becoming interconnected and sometimes resulting in these mad long stretches, there's a sense of scale to them that I couldn't really get from Paradise. Like, it can't be designed that way, and that's completely understandable. Just, it's different. Paradise is also different in the sense that it is way more forgiving than Burnout 3, with challenges starting off easy and only getting harder the more you take part in that same event type. So you can take a break if one category's gotten too much for you and try something else. Or you can pick a different type of car. That might be what helps you overcome those marked man challenges or the stunt runs. That's definitely more my speed, compared to feeling quite miserable with Burnout 3 by the time I gave up on that game. That really did not work out the way I hoped it would. I do wish the music selection here was a bit better, or at least better mixed in with the game audio. I can't hear it particularly well, but I overall prefer Paradise as a versatile racing game with tons to see and come back for. Oh, and also the Ultimate Box thing, yeah, that's the name this particular version got because it included all the DLC and free updates, but only those up until February of 2009. So most of the bonus car packs, the Cops and Robbers mode, and most notably Big Surf Island, they're not featured in this edition. What a very strange name. It only matters for like 2 minutes and then never again. Moon for the Nintendo DS. Moon is a first-person shooter made by Renegade Kid, those folks that made Mutant Mudds and Zeodrifter, utilizing the same engine used for their horror game Dementium the Ward. It's a pretty straightforward game, with you wandering through corridors and blasting aliens as you navigate somewhat open-ended maps. Yeah, there isn't really much I have to say on it apart from it does its job functionally. There's a decent set of controls, multiple weapons, and secret areas that give you upgrades or collectibles that unlock a bunch of optional missions. It's got some pretty neat concepts it plays around with, and it knows how to pace between big and small stages well, but kinda runs out of steam early on. By the end of the game, everything just feels a bit, alright, we're done now, go away. For something to play that only took a couple hours to beat, it does the trick, and no more. Eh.